Hiya. Hi.
Hi everyone. So just waiting for everyone to come in. I can see people are like joining in progress. Oh my goodness, thank you for having your screens on some of you. It's so nice to see people's faces. I'm just going to give it for 5 minutes. We've got give it till 5 minutes past while people trickle in. There's quite a few of us so far, and I've got another 10 people in the waiting room. While we're all waiting, if everyone in the chat, if you don't mind, if you could just put a little something about like the year group that your child is in and where you are joining us from. So, are you joining us from home, your sofa, anywhere more exotic? Has anyone like joined us on holiday? That would be proper commitment to helping your child with reading. Yeah, so and if possible as well, if we've had a conversation on Instagram or if you found me from Instagram, if you could put your Instagram handle in there as well, it would be really helpful. Okay, we've still got a few more people trying to join. If you've just come in, hi everybody. If you could just put in the chat what year group your child is in and where you're joining us from. So, and whether you're at home, at work, wherever you might be, and your Instagram handle, that would be really helpful. It's going to be even more helpful because if you're joining live today, I'm going to send like a free resource to everyone for anyone who joined live. So I want to make sure I'm sending it to the right people. If you didn't find me through Instagram, you could always put your email address there. But I think most people did. Right, I'm just going to give it one more minute because I've still got some people just joining in the waiting room. Okay. I don't think I've ever had over 60 people on a call before, so I'm hoping that my internet and Zoom can cope with this. So I'm going to read some of the chat as it's coming in. So going into year 4 from Abu Dhabi. My daughter's in 1 and we're in Scotland, North Scotland. I love hearing where everyone's from. We've got students from all over the world. So it's one of my favourite parts of this job, actually. Somebody who's a TA, so here for professional interest. A few people that I've already chatted to on Instagram. Someone from Leeds. Hi, Lisa, with a child in year 1 and one about to start reception. Somebody else in Ireland. If you are joining us from Ireland, hi, we've got tons of students in Ireland at the moment. So, yeah, I feel like there might be a majority of people on this call. I'm just going to let 7 more people in the waiting room, then I'm going to get started. Someone from London going into year 1. The year groups is really important. Lots of you with more than one child. So I'm Mafusi, 12, 7, and 6 from South Africa. Um, year 1 going into year 2, joining from Essex. Going into year 4 from Cornwall. Hi, Claire. We've got one more person in the waiting room. And one person. Right, I'm going to get started. So thank you, everyone. That is really interesting. And actually, we've got a really good breadth of year groups there, which is what I was hoping for. And it seems like everyone's in that sort of 6-year-old to 9-year-old bracket, which this can apply either side of that. So if children are 5, this still applies essentially, because it's something to look out for. And if children are older than 9, and it hasn't been addressed, then ultimately it still applies to them as well. But I would say 6 to 9 are the main ages where you're going to see the main impact of the fluency gap happening with your child. So I'm going to get started. Oh, people coming into the waiting room. Okay, people are going to have to wait in the waiting room for a minute. Can I just have a quick thumbs up or hands up, whatever's easiest, just to let you know if you can see my screen and you can hear me okay and everything's all good? Okay, fab. That is always helpful. Just going to get my notes up. Okay, just so everyone knows, we're being recorded, so you will get the replay. I'm hoping that my internet holds out, but you will get it emailed to you straight after with sort of a summary of the call, and there will be a Q&A at the end as well. So I have got Hannah here with me today, who is my VA, and another Hannah, not me. So she will be answering any questions in the chat, which are sort of like quick fire questions. And then I will try and leave some spaces as well in between for more questions. And Hannah, if you find anyone's getting lost in the chat, they've got a good question, if you could note that down, and then I will make sure it gets answered. So if I don't reply to you straight away and you put something in the chat, don't worry, I will reply to you. Okay, and if you do want to come off mic at any point and ask any questions, that's great, because a chatty room is great and chatting in the chat is also great. So we've got a really good range of people, and tonight's session shouldn't go on any longer than 9 o'clock. Thank you so much for giving up your time to join me. And it's all going to be about the fluency gap. And it's basically all about what I'm hearing from people every day on Instagram and the children that we're working with in my DMs, and what I've experienced in school myself as well as a teacher and a leader, where sort of the answer that parents are getting given all of the time is just keep reading, and just keep reading isn't working, and people aren't getting the sort of right advice. So what does that look like? Before I tell you anything about myself, and I know a lot of you will know a bit about me on Instagram, I want to just give you some numbers, and then I'll tell you a bit about myself. So in the UK, and bear in mind, I know there are people here that aren't from the UK, but I do feel that this is very similar across all of the curriculums in all of the sort of areas that we cover with the students that we teach. So I know a lot of the Irish students that we teach, this is sort of reflected in their curriculum as well. And I know in the UAE, most children that are joining us are from British international schools anyway. So definitely this is reflected in their curriculum. But the stats I am giving you are government stats, and they are from the UK. So in the UK, 8 in 10 children pass the phonics check. What I would like you to do is, just in the chat, give me a guess. If 8 in 10 pass the phonics screening check, which is at the end of year 1, if anyone's not sure, so in the year your child goes from 5 to 6 years old, how many children do you then think meet the standard for reading at the end of year 6, which is 11-year-olds? So how many out of 10 do you think meet that standard? So 8 in 10 pass at 6 years old, their reading test. How many then pass at 11 years old? It'd be really interesting to know what your thoughts are in the chat. Okay, so everyone's guessing really low, which is great because you've sort of guessed the reason that I'm doing this, right? I don't. It's not as low as some of you are saying. But basically, out of those 8 in 10, out of that number, those 8 children, only 1 in 4 pass. So we've only got 2 out of, sorry, not 1 in 4, sorry, 1 in 4 don't pass. So we've only got 2 out of those 8, 6 out of those 8 children passing. And I'm going to show you that so it makes a bit more sense in a table in a minute. And this is based on government published results. Okay, so I have spent 17 years inside the system that produces those 2 numbers. A deputy head. Sorry, I've just got so many people coming into the way. I actually was working for myself. I was a consultant, and I went into local authority schools and I advised on reading. So that involved me doing mock Ofsteds and mock deep dives in reading for schools. So basically, I've got lots and lots of reading specialist background, which has led me to this point. And basically, that's all great because it gives me a bit of like oomph in telling you who I am and why I'm here. But really, it doesn't let you see yourself in this situation. And what I really want to tell you about is yes, before I became a parent, that was my experience. And now I'm a parent, I've got a completely different experience, but they both add up and meet in the same place. So I've got much more sort of an understanding from a parent side now, but the issue is still the same. So I'm going to tell you a bit about my daughter to start off with, and then hopefully it will sort of set the flow for the rest of the night because I feel like we could have a lot in common here. So I would say my daughter is very bright. I know everyone says that about their child, right? But she's a bright button. She's got amazing general knowledge. She can literally binge audiobooks, listen to them. She retains everything they say. She loves. She's got an amazing imagination. But when she started school, reading itself wasn't clicking. And I did the whole going into school, oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if maybe she's got ADHD. I can see symptoms of that here. Is there any sort of signs of dyslexia? Oh, she's fine. She's where she should be for this age. Because in reception, the early learning goals are really very low in their first year of school. So basically, you're always going to get told, no, they're where they should be. Keep going on. And then actually towards the end of the year, the conversation started with the teacher sort of saying to me, oh, I'm not sure, she's getting distracted easily. She's a bit further behind than where I thought she should be. Then we've gone into year one and the conversation has been the same, but very much with myself leading it. And basically everyone's saying she's fine, she's where she should be. But I can see that gap was getting bigger and bigger, and I could see she was going to become this child that I am talking about now. And then all of a sudden, I'd say maybe in the last term of school, so last few weeks, it was, oh, okay, maybe not the last term, sorry, around Easter, it was okay, we're not sure she's going to meet expected standard. And I was like, well, hang on a sec, I've been coming and telling you this all year. And that's when I've enrolled her like on our core program, and she has made accelerated progress and her confidence just went through the ceiling overnight. I should have done it before and I didn't. So when parents say to me, oh, I don't know whether it's too early, I completely empathize because I made the same decision. But I could see what was happening because it's my job to see it. So if that's what the system gave a reading specialist, no concerns, keeping an eye on it, and the teachers both knew what my job and what my background was. She just needs to focus. She just needs to become more confident. She just needs to read more. Then anyone here who's feeling like you failed, you've definitely not failed, because I couldn't get a straight answer either. And quite often parents will come on discovery calls and say to me, we've been to the school and we can't get a straight answer. Her comprehension isn't the problem. That was never the problem. And just needing to focus is not helpful in any way, shape, or form. And again, it really forms a part of our education system, which is not helpful because if you're finding something really hard, trying to focus on it is even harder. And it's actually not really a tangible result. So yeah, that's a bit about me. What you'll hopefully know, what the fluency gap is and the signs that your child's in it. And I'm going to get you to do a bit of reflection on that in a minute. Why school probably has clear here, this isn't going to be a sort of school system slagging off this like session. This is completely I love teachers, they're brilliant, everything they're doing is great, people are working hard, but there are gaps in the system and it isn't perfect, and it's going to be about identifying those and seeing what you can do about it. And what actually closes it. So what is your next step? If you identify that your child is in this system, what is your next step? And because you've turned up on a Tuesday night, you get the fluency check, which is going to be a listening resource from me to help you identify your child and whether they are in this gap. So before we start properly, I just want to make sure everyone's got something to write with. And we're going to come back to it at the end. So just check that you've got something to write this down and come back to it at the end. So I want you to finish the sentence. When my child reads it, and I want you to finish it off. So when my child reads it, if you want to share it in the chat, great. but you don't have to. It's completely for yourself. So it might be, when my child reads, it is a battle. When my child reads, I get anxious because I'm concerned. When my child reads, it's easy. They can read no problem. When my child reads, it doesn't flow. Okay, so we've got some coming in. So like hard, it's slow and painful. Okay, such hard work, guessing words, torture for him. Hard for me because I was his teacher last year. Wow, that must have been hard. Slow and staggered as well as a battle. Stresses her out, guessing words, wrong words. It's slow and frustrating. Tries so hard, but it doesn't pay off. Oh, that breaks my heart. And I think that's all children. I don't think any children sit at home thinking, I'm not going to bother. And if they are doing that, that's because there's something else has happened to lead to that. Most children want to please and they want to do well. Um, it doesn't flow, it's still very silted. So we're getting the idea that everyone here is very much sort of in the same boat. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to start park that sentence till later, and I want to start off by talking you through the phonics screening check. Now, not all schools do this; it's only schools in the UK. Actually, I know even Wales don't do it. So you might not have this in your school, but the same still applies. We have got children working with us from Wales and Scotland, and they're all sort of finding this same gap that surfaces. And basically, the phonics screening check was put in and it genuinely improved reading in schools. It was amazing. So children's phonics and their ability to recognize sounds and decode has really, really improved. Teachers are much more well versed in how to teach phonics. And I think it's genuinely a really great thing. And it means that struggling decoders get spotted at 6 and not 11. So if someone doesn't pass the phonics screening check, they get spotted straight away and they're put into catch up groups and stuff happens with them. But, and I promised myself I wasn't going to say about there, but I have. The check test decoding words out, it cannot tell you a child can read. And this is the problem. We then have this whole group of children which just scrape the phonics screening check. Because teachers, schools, academies, local authorities are judged on this number. So actually, it's almost impossible for teachers not to teach to the test because if somebody comes in and says, well, you haven't taught Sarah the sounds that she needs because you've been working on this fluency level, which is actually below the sound she's expected at, that's not going to look great on you. You're expected to get that 8 out of 10 pass mark or higher for the phonics screening check. Um, so what it does is it makes sure children can recognize sounds. It also makes sure that children can learn those sounds by rote and recognize a certain number of them in words. Children are drilled in schools to learn pseudo words, so those nonsense words, or you might have heard of them like the alien words or the monster words. They are drilled those, even though they don't need them. It's actually not part of the curriculum because it's on the test. They are taught and taught and taught those. Um, and as I say, that has got some real positives. Um, I've just got a fact here I want to tell you. Sorry, 40 words and on the phonics screening check, and half of them are made up nonsense words that you might not know. And they have to read them off a list. So there's no sentences, there's no story, there's no meaning, there's no sort of fluency check. It's very much a by rote drill for the phonics screening check. And what I want to do is I want to show you this table. Coming up. Here it is. So you can see here, I'll just give you a second to have a look at that, some of the figures. So I think that sums up what I was saying earlier, really. Whereas you've got these 14 children out of 100 that have passed the phonics screening check, but then they're not meeting age expected standards at 11 years old. So the question is why? What happens between the end of year one and the end of year six? And it's not just me saying this. Ofsted, the government, have written whole guidance reports on this, and we're going to look at that in a bit more detail in a minute. I promise it won't be that boring. But this is the government's own track data. The same children followed from the check to their SAT. So this isn't two separate years, two different sets of data. Sorry, my notes page just decided to just stop working for me. So does this sound these phrases out to you? And then in the chat, can you put how many of them apply to your child? So you can put 1, 2, 3, or 4. Reading is slow, effortful, and exhausting. Guesses from the first letter. Fine at school, but you've got a niggle. Reading at home has become a battle. So this is basically us looking at what does this child look like that passed the phonics screening check, but then doesn't make that leap from decoding to reading fluency. And that is the bridge that we're trying to get across here. This is the gap that you will see and that we're seeing with the 120 children that we're working with at the moment. This is what comes in time and time again. Okay, so you can see most people are 3 or 4. If you're only 1, that's brilliant. Because ultimately, even if you spend an hour today working out your child isn't in this gap, that's time well spent as far as I'm concerned. And I do have parents that I speak to who think their child is really struggling. And actually, when we work with them, you know, it's not so bad. So if you work that out today, that's brilliant. Okay, I want to tell you a story now. And I'm hoping that this will give you might be able to see your own situation in this a little bit. If you've got any through, if you've got any questions, put them in the chat. So basically, a few years ago, before I had my little boy, who is now 2, so maybe 3 years ago, I was doing mock Ofsted deep dives for reading in school. So I was going into schools in the local authority, and I was meant to be part of a team of teachers that went into schools and worked together to look at the reading. Basically, I went into one school, and it very much became apparent straight away that we wouldn't be working together. I would be doing the whole leading of the deep dive. I was the one that was leading it anyway, but it was meant to be sort of like a coaching session. But basically nothing was in the place in the school for this. So one of the tasks that we had to do is we had to go around and look at children who'd passed the phonics screening check, but they weren't meeting year group standards for year 2. So actually they'd got to the end of year 1 and they were where they should be, but then in year 2, they'd not met that standard. So they were children who were sort of in this gap, really, apparently. And I sat down and I heard this little boy read with me 1-to-1. He was in year 2. And I think it was in the summer term. And he literally read a page to me and I knew what the problem was straight away. So he knew every single sound in that book. He could literally break down every single word. Maybe 1 or 2 he couldn't, but the majority of them he could break them down, blend them, and read the book. But there was absolutely no fluency, so he had no automaticity. So he couldn't just say the cat sat on the mat or the alien walked down the road. He wouldn't have been able to read it like that. He was very much saying if he wanted to say walked, it would be or yeah, every word he was sounding it out, then blending it. So why? Because he was obviously really well versed in phonics, but he hadn't had that fluency catch up. And there's lots of reasons for that. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And he is not unusual. This is just happening time and time again. If that sounds like your child, that they can't read without having the majority of words sounded out and blended, just give me a little hands up, either visually or on the chat, because it's really helpful to know. Some of you might be sitting here thinking, no, actually, my child reads mostly automatically, in which case it's lovely. This might not apply to you. Okay. And in school, they did not know what to do. They had no intervention for this child. He was doing a phonics catch up program. He was being told to read every day. I could see in his sort of reading record, there were copious notes between school and his parents who were reading with him every night. His parents obviously really wanted to work hard and, you know, get him to where he needed to be, but it just wasn't happening. Oh, sorry, I've gone backwards. So what I'm trying to get at is that this phonics screening check at the end of year one puts the whole system's attention on decoding, and everyone else in is sort of following suit. You're in, there's a real focus on phonics and the first 2 years of school, which is amazing. But then this spotlight goes in on all the pressure on the teachers and the children getting to this level, and then it just switches off until the end of year six, and then there's nothing there. So that's why this gap is sort of being created. And researchers for UCL found that teachers feel pushed to focus on phonics above everything else. And I've got a quote here from one study that puts it perfectly. The assessment has become the curriculum. Children are even drilled on made up nonsense words because nonsense words are in the test. Decoding is drillable, a finite list of sounds. Fluency isn't. So what you're all thinking is, if this lady, Hannah, who's got this Instagram page, is sitting here and telling me all this, like, you know, she can't be the only person in the world who's got this information. Why isn't anyone doing anything about it? So that's really the next question, isn't it? Why aren't schools just fixing this? Well, they are trying to, basically. So Ofsted is putting in place tons of fluency training for teachers. The government is trying to roll it out for new teachers. But the crux of it is that, for example, what we offer is time with a qualified teacher. That is what makes our program so good. There are lots of other things that go alongside that, but that's what schools don't have. They don't have the luxury of time with a qualified teacher. And that's why fluency isn't this quick fix. You can't just put a fluency program into a school and expect everything to improve. Although it will have good results, hopefully, you're not going to see the results that every child needs, because ultimately fluency then at this stage means every child is working at a different level that's struggling. So then trying to match them up to their own pace, to their own speed in small groups is really hard when you've only got 30 children and one teacher. So that's why it's not a quick fix, essentially. And I've just written something here that's basically like that. This is what's happened to my daughter, and she's not even going into year two. She's just at the end of year one at the moment, and I feel really confident I'm not going to let that happen. But I feel like it would be there by now if I hadn't put that into place. And I mean, I've got something written down here from a blog today that I was reading about it, which is catch up is where the money ran out, which I don't think is necessarily true. It's just everything's always finite in a school. So the attention moves on to children in Key Stage 2 after phonics. So arriving in Key Stage 2 without fluency, you've now got a teacher who is maybe used to teaching 7-year-olds and upwards. So, and I'm really generalizing here, and this might not be the case, but who aren't well versed in teaching early readers. Yes, they might have some basic phonics training, but they're not well versed in doing catch up. You've got teaching assistants who are under a lot of pressure delivering the catch up programs. And yeah, basically, I don't want this to be teacher bashing, but this is just sort of like the reality of it. And I'm just going to try and get it to the next slide. My computer is being slow. Okay, and I don't want you just to take my word for it. I want you to have a listen to this video. It is, I'm just going to play a minute of it. It's a gov.uk video that was released some years ago now, but I remember watching it and thinking, oh my goodness, that's it. They've hit the nail on the head. This is what I've been looking for. I think at the time I was a reading lead in school when I watched this, and I was like, wow, why are they saying this? And I don't know about it as a teacher in school. So even though that was some years ago, and I think it will say on here, I think it's 2016, 23, it was definitely, this must be a new video, a new version of it. And it's still going on now. So I'm going to share it with you. Can you just let me know? Hannah, can you see that? Is it the right screen I'm sharing?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then hopefully the sound is going to be the same. Nope, I can't even hear that. Hang on 2 seconds.
But another group of children also needs help. Those who meet...
Apologies, I think my there's nearly 100 people joining, so I'm creaking a little bit. Right, can everyone hear that?
But yet can only...
hear it.
Yeah, so I've started it about 30 seconds in. The link is going to be sent to you, so don't worry about it too much if you want.
But another group of children also needs help. Those who meet the standard of the check, but yet can only read the early books in their school's phonic program. These children slip through the net because the check was not designed to assess whether they can read familiar words speedily or decode unfamiliar ones easily. It assesses only their knowledge of letter sounds and whether they can blend to read words. Meet Alice. She met the standard of the screening check in year 1, but she read each word very slowly and needed a lot of prompting to continue. She could not read 7 of the 20 pseudo words. At the end of year 2, Alice did not reach the expected standard in reading. Although she knew many letter sounds and could blend them to decode, she could not read fluently enough by that stage to pay attention to what she was reading. Alice loves listening to and talking about stories, but never chooses to read for herself. In fact, she does everything she can not to read. When it's quiet reading time, she flicks through the familiar pages of her book about her football team. No one knows she can't read it. And she's not one of the class's because she passed the screening check. At home, she's particularly inventive at coming up with reasons not to read on her own. When she reads to her dad, Alice struggles to read unfamiliar words. Mostly.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there, but I would love to know if that resonates, if that sounds similar, because it's really useful to know whether I'm sort of getting guys that are attending. Okay, brilliant. So at least you know you're not alone now. Like, you can see how many people have turned up on this call and how many people this is affecting. So yeah, you know that, you know, you're not alone. It's not just your child, and also it's not just you that's maybe going into school asking for advice and being given the sort of just keep reading advice that I know all of you will have been given. That is actually a bigger problem than that. Right, I'm gonna just share the presentation with you again.
Oh, Hannah, just quickly,
My
someone's
Zoom.
asked if the screening checks in Northern Ireland as well. Do you know?
I don't believe it is. Don't believe it is. But I know they follow a very similar curriculum. I know in the Republic of Ireland, so in the rest of Ireland, it is slightly behind us. So they're sort of like a year group behind in the way that they're learning phonics, like the expectations, that is. But it will be the same. It just might be a year later this happens, basically. That's what we're seeing in the children that we've got coming in. Okay, can everyone see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to show you what this looks like in practice now. So we've got decoding, we've got the sounding out, we've got fluency. How do you bridge that gap in between the two? Because it's a big gap, okay? And I know that children are being pushed onto these sounds, new sounds.
Oh, Hannah, I've lost your sound.
By getting them to become... Oh, sorry.
I can hear you now.
On my back, everybody. Wow, I feel I'm going to have to invest in like a supercomputer for more of these meetings. My Zoom keeps threatening to crash. So I've told you the story about my daughter, basically. I've told you the story about the little boy that I saw in year 2. There are so many more stories that I could tell you of children that we're working with that this is. And actually, there's probably quite a few that I was meant to bring up and I've completely forgotten now I'm doing it here. But everyone's here, his child is in that gap somewhere. You are not imagining it. And we want to look at how we can bridge that. So let's have a look at this little boy and how he managed to do it is what's coming next. I'm just going to manage to flip this over on the PowerPoint, which isn't happening. So this is a little boy, and I have got permission with his mum to share this, who joined us exactly 12 weeks ago. And this was him then. So 12 weeks ago, he's in year 2. I'm hoping you can all hear it. It might take a second to load.
My name is Spoon, and I am a big
Pug, well done. That's the breed.
I am
So here you've got your split O. I am home
all alone in the daytime.
Well done.
My owner
Yeah, good correction.
Year 2 is 6 to 7 years old.
Goes out, and it is time for me to have some fun. I like.
Okay, so you get the idea. I'm hoping everyone, I know it's breaking up at first, so I let it run for a bit longer, but I'm hoping that everybody got a chance to hear that. So basically, Teddy, 12 weeks ago. And obviously I'm now going to show you a video of him now.
I don't want to be a night bird, Plop told his mummy. Dark is nasty. You don't know that, said his mummy. Go and ask that little boy down there and what he thinks. So Plop took a deep breath and flew down.
And that is with our Fluency Accelerator 30-minute once weekly group. And that was his first time reading that text. So you can see in the shift that he's made has gone from that guessing, which is what he was doing, like decoding, the pausing, the hesitation, like his confidence is built and he's got that real fluency. Don't get me wrong, he's still got a way to go, right? He's not a completely fluent reader yet. If it was a trickier text, maybe he wouldn't be as fluent. But you can see there that the progress that's been made in 12 weeks is absolutely huge. So I suppose it's how you get there, because school are doing catch-up programs, but they're very much phonics focused. If they're doing fluency programs, it's very hard for them to tailor them to the individual children. So it's what can we do? I'm just trying to basically get the next slide up. What I would like to know is which one sounds like your kitchen table. I'm pretty sure everybody's going to tell me it's A or B, but if you're telling me it's B, that tells me that, you know, you maybe don't need to worry about it as much as you are. So in the chat, could you put A or B in the chat, please? Okay, everyone's A at year 3, yeah. And I was about to say that next, actually, I forgot to mention it. You might think, actually, my child is further on than this, but if they're slightly older, it's what it would look like at an age-appropriate text. So this text would be age-appropriate for year 2, but what is age-appropriate for year 3 or year 4 and older might look slightly differently. And you might find if you give them an age-appropriate text, they are sounding out and guessing like he was in the first video. A with some B. I think that's a nice place to be. Okay, so what happens now, basically? Why act now? Don't do what I did at the end of sort of reception and leave it. You've got this year 2 wobble that we can see even from the government video is happening, and it either gets slightly better or it goes downhill all the way up to year 4. When I was teaching in the classroom, my experience was predominantly in year 4 onwards. So I started in year 5, I went to year 6, I had then year 3, 4 mixes. It's only actually when I went into leadership and being a reading lead and a deputy head and various things, I went down to the younger years. And actually, the knowledge I gained then from working with reception year 1 and year 2 with teaching reading was huge. And I know that year 3 and 4 teachers don't tend to, and I am making a generalization, have this. And I've literally just remembered something I wanted to tell you guys earlier, actually, which was when we're looking at why schools aren't just fixing this and fluency programs and time and all of those sorts of things, I put a post out on my Instagram a while ago now, which was basically like, it was a bit sort of hooky, it was a bit baity, but it was meant to be. So it was like, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but your year 3 teacher isn't reading one-to-one with your child anytime soon. And it got like crazy engagement on Instagram, mostly from parents, but there was a whole cohort of teachers were like, whoa, hang on a second here. I read one-to-one with my year 3 children. And as a teacher, I'm not knocking them for doing it. I'm not knocking them for doing it because they're teaching a class of 30 children. So if they are reading one-to-one with all 30 children, when are they teaching? It's not possible to do both. And actually so many teachers came back to me and said, I read with all my class every week. And I was just like, how do you do that? And if you are doing it, you're not doing it from a quality perspective. It must just literally be like, give me your book and I'm going to sit and listen to you read for 2 minutes. In which case I would argue, what's the point? What are they actually gaining from that? Actually, your time would probably be spent better doing some really good whole class teaching for an hour than it would be listening to each child for 2 minutes. So yeah, I just wanted to sort of put that into perspective a bit there. It's not because people aren't trying and people aren't passionate about this, but it's like, what is the option, basically? I can see some people have got some questions coming in. So if they're behind when they hit year 4, will they remain academically behind across the board through the rest of their school years? So there is a lot of research that goes in line that children who are behind at 7 with reading are still behind at GCSE, but there's always the caveat of without adequate intervention, because I suppose there's no way of really tracking that for all the individual groups of children. But yes, there is that real sort of line that people track. Sorry, I'm just reading. What about things like dyslexia? Does that also help with working? Yeah, 100%. So that's what dyslexia is. So basically, when you're looking at fluency, you're looking at recognizing the sounds. So you're looking at phonic sounds, but you're looking at recognizing them in words, in sentences, and in passages of text, rather than just recognizing sounds on a flashcard. And you're also looking about slowing it down. So looking at 1 sound or 2 sounds rather than 10 sounds at a time, which is what you'll find with a lot of phonics catch-up programs. What are the reading books we should be reading at a year 2? It's blown my mind that Pop the Baby Bar now is a year 2 book. Okay. I don't have a reading list in front of me at the moment, but you should definitely be in year 2. The transition is going, they shouldn't be focusing on phonics anymore. So phonics is stopped. They stopped teaching phonics in year 1. So you're looking at what used to be called phase 6, which is where they start to look at spelling rules and root words, looking at introducing prefixes and suffixes. So I could go on there forever. Okay, sorry, I'm getting distracted by the chat. I'm going to go back to this and we'll come to more questions at the end. So what I would like you to do is just have a look at this picture and have a think about where your child is on this line. Are they in year 2 having a wobble? In which case you're in the perfect time to really do something about this. Are they somewhere here going into year 3? The majority of parents that come to us and ask for support are parents at the end of year 2 or the beginning of year 3. But recently we've changed our messaging, really trying to get it across to end of year 1 children to try and preempt the next step. So wherever your child is on this journey, there's going to be things that we can do. But if you're here, you're sort of at this pivotal moment where you can make this decision and hopefully it will improve for the better. Year 2 is age 6 to 7. And actually this quote here is from a testimonial with a parent. and her child joined us. I think they were at 5 or just turned 6. And she was talking all about on the testimonial her experience of struggling with reading and how, you know, the value of what she's doing with her daughter doing these sessions at the moment. Okay, in the chat, could you tell me if you've been into school and asked for advice, what advice have you been given? That's going to be really interesting. So in the chat, I'd love to know the advice you've been given. Oh my goodness, this is crazy. Keep reading, it'll catch up. Don't worry, it will just click. Boys are slower. Oh no, who said that? Oh my goodness, I need more information. Oh, that's absolutely outrageous. I can't believe someone told you boys are slower. Yeah, so they don't actually, no one tests for dyslexia until a child is 8 years old. It's not year 5. And you can do it just as they turn 8, and they can do a screener before then. The reason people don't test until they're 8 is because it can be developmental up until that stage. Read every day and it will just click. Don't get me wrong. Reading every day is so important, and it is going to help, especially for those children that are just nearly there and they're just a bit stuck. But for a really stuck child, it's just not a strategy. It's like this scattergun approach. And if your child is already like battling against reading, telling them, a parent, to read every day is like the most unhelpful thing. So I'll give you an example of my daughter in year 1. She just wouldn't, start of year 1, she wouldn't read any of her books to me. We had this complete battle at home. And in the end, I just stopped, because I thought, what's the point? Even if she actually complies and sits down and reads the book with me, we're not actually getting anything out of that session, other than a lot of upset, adding to her anxiety. So I went into school and just sort of said, like, the books you're sending home with her are too hard because she can't access them. And if you send her home with a book easier, then she would read with me every night. So it's sort of like this, and we did start to do that, and then she joined our program and things started to get much easier. But actually just keeping reading for a child who hates reading is just like impossible advice. Keep working at words and reading, and we will reassess in 6 months. Just keep reading. Sight words and high frequency words. Yes, so all of this is all good advice, but none of it is like joined up. And I think that's where the problem comes in. So playing games, great advice. Keeping reading, great advice. Practicing sounds and sight words, great advice. But you need all of those in a structured system that builds into the progress for that child. Sorry, lost my trail of thought there. So one thing that you can do, and you might want to get a pen and write this down. When you speak to school, and when you go into school this week, or whenever you get a chance to speak to your child's teacher next, you can ask them, how's their reading? And instead of just leaving it at that, you can say, are they building their fluency, or are they still decoding? And what's happening to build automaticity? So that's how automatically they read the words. So if they are just doing phonics flashcards and games each day, precision teaching for reading words, that isn't helping them with fluency. It's helping them a little bit. It's helping them maybe catch up with sounds they might not know, but they're not getting the fluency element built. So instead of just saying what's happening for their reading or how is their reading, that's a really useful question that you can go into school and ask. And I will put that in properly at the end. Has anyone missed it? Shall I repeat it? Let me just read it. Is my child fluent, or are they still decoding? And what are you doing to build automaticity? And hopefully that will help get you a more structured answer about what's happening at school. Okay, I am really aware it's 10 to 9 and I've rambled on for 50 minutes. And actually, this is another quote from another testimonial, and these are all on my YouTube channel. Reading on its own is a bit pointless unless there's purpose behind it. Otherwise, you're both just ploughing through the book, getting no closer. And that's what parents, before they join us, tend to find. Oh, there we go. It's on the screen there for anyone that missed it. Oh, now I've gone too far back. And I've already spoken about this already. So if the book coming home is too hard, stop, go back into school, ask for easier books, ask for different books. And Another really good tip that I'm going to give you tonight is that if you've got a child who is 7 or over, who is really struggling with reading and fluency, I really massively recommend the website phonicsbooks.co.uk. I am not affiliated with them in any way, shape or form. I should be contacting them for a cut. But I really recommend their reading schemes. A lot of parents will come to me and say, we just want to read different books at home that aren't the same book that they've been bringing home since year 1. I really recommend going on and having a look there. If you are saying don't worry about reading that book, you're not letting them off, you're stopping something that isn't working. So if it's not working and you're battling, what's the point in doing it? Just put a stop to it and stop sort of stressing someone out and making everyone feel guilty, basically. Okay, so what does closing this gap actually look like? What do we do in our sessions? What can we offer you? So parents are quite often shocked what it looks like, because I think parents quite often think of reading sessions as sitting down and just reading text, either that or going sort of through phonics flashcards. Not a child reading aloud while an adult listens. They're interactive and you need that targeted teaching. And again, on a testimonial recently, I had a parent who said her husband wasn't sure about the program because of the money, and he wasn't sure if their child was too young, whether they needed it. And now he's actually the one that sits in on the sessions with his daughter when they do it. You don't have to sit on the sessions. And he's just like, wow. I think his quote was, it's just a few pints in the pub each week. And what you get from the sessions, we could never offer at home. Behind every 30 minutes, there is assessment planning, a text pitch at exactly the right level, small groups of 4 to 6 children. Remember what I said earlier, which is your child doesn't get time, and that is what they get in these groups and our Fluency Accelerator groups. And I've said here, you might be sort of wondering what happened to my daughter. Well, I've already told you, she's part of those groups. She did start with some one-to-one and then go into a group, but actually the group is much more beneficial for her. A lot of parents, when they come to me, will say things like, I only want one-to-one for them. What we find with some children actually is one-to-one, they're not getting the same dynamic that they do in a small group. So they're sort of getting that like competition, that interaction, that community feel, which when you're struggling with reading, having a reading community that you can feel like you're not alone is really, really important. And all of our teachers are specialist reading teachers. And what I mean by that, because it's quite a vague term, is everyone's a qualified teacher and everyone's got some experience with leading reading or literacy in a school. And obviously we do our own like in-house training and various things. And the parent I spoke to you about earlier, and the little boy that we saw, the year 2, and he's reading at the beginning and he's reading at the end, and the transformation he made. She has just been told, and this has reminded me here, it's not actually linked to this one, that he is now actually expected across all the areas at the end of year 2 in 3 months, and before he was only working towards, which has made it. And I'm going to leave you with this, and then I'm going to go on to Q&A, and I'm going to tell you a bit about sessions and things like that. So takeaway from one of my parents the other week, he asked to play top trumps. He picked up a comic and read the speech bubbles. He went into school without tears. I think most parents that we work with aren't looking for their child to be Einstein or passing the 11 plus, although that would be a lovely benefit. And we do work with some children who are sort of working towards that goal. What most parents want is for their children to feel confident, for them to feel secure, for them to enjoy what they're doing, enjoy reading, and to be able to access the rest of the curriculum, and for reading not to hold them back. So I feel like for a parent to mark these as her like biggest takeaways from the session so far for her son was like a big sort of breakthrough moment, and it was really, really lovely. Let me just go through. What I'm going to do, sorry, I've just skipped 2 slides by accident, is I'm going to talk to you about the sessions just very briefly, and then I'm going to go into the Q&A. So if you think this sounds great, it sounds like your child, and you would like to at least get them assessed to see if they are in this gap, we offer a trial and an assessment. The trial is a 1-to-1 assessment with a specialist teacher, a taster session in a level group, and then a full written report and our honest recommendation. So let's say today you're like, these sessions sound great, I would really like to just know some more about where my child stands and whether they need help or not. What happens is you fill in the booking form. The booking form is this QR code here, which you can hold up your phone and take a picture of it, and it should take you to the form now, but I will email them out to everyone afterwards anyway. It's £89 for the trial. You get 30 minutes one-to-one with a tutor. You get taster session in a group with a tutor, and then you get a full written report. And we will say to you at the end of that, this is the right place. Your child does need help, or actually they're much further on than where we thought they would be. And this does happen. We can move them up to this level in this group if you want them still to get a confidence boost, or, you know, they're actually fine. Or we might even say, they're a bit further behind, they could do with some one-to-one support, and we will be honest and sort of make the right guidance. I'm also going to put the link for that form just in case you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that now, but I might have a look at it later, in the chat as well. And then I'm going to go to completely up to you, if you want to come off mic and ask me, or whether you want to put it in the chat. My chat's being a bit slow, so you might find actually speaking to me a bit easier.
Hannah, just very quickly, can you put in the chat as well the link to the phonics book website? A few people are asking for it.
Yeah, it is literally phonics with an S, books.co.uk. I will put it in the follow-up email. I'm not going to put it in the chat because I don't want to start opening up another web page and my computer goes crazy while people are asking me questions. So are there any games or things we can do at home to help increase fluency is a really difficult question, because yes, there are lots of games that you can do, but for every individual child, that's going to look completely different. So what I would say is, if you want to know what specific games and what specific words and focuses that you need for your child, book them the trial and assessment, and then in that recommendation, we will tell you exactly what they need. And even if you don't continue with us, but you take that into school and say, this is the assessment and it doesn't match up with yours. So I'm treating the next question that comes in. I think that's going to be really helpful for you. I could turn around here and say, oh yeah, go away and play snap games, go away and play Connect Four or Noughts and Crosses, but with words in, which is some of the games that we might play in our sessions. I could go away and say, sort of play Splat the Rat when words pop up, which there's loads of them online. But unless it's actually targeted to your child, that's not going to help them become a fluent reader. And that's sort of what the whole thing is getting at. A lot of parents have already been given advice about playing games and reading more. Their child's not progressing because it's not targeted and it doesn't match up. My child is on an EHCT. I assume the assessment will cover if she needs one-to-one. Yeah, 100%. So the form itself, if you want to book in and you want to do the trial, the form is quite open in the fact that you put in your details. You tell me your child's age or year group, I can't remember which one. You then tell me sort of a bit about them and their reading. You make the payment and you're booked in. I will then contact you personally and say, what is your availability? Is there any other information I need to know? And we will go from there and I'll put you in the right place. If after the trial we're like, no, this child needs one-to-one, we will tell you. And we have got a different program, which is our sort of reading fluency formula. It's our core one-to-one program, but it's not what I'm here to talk about today. It's a very different child that program is aimed at. Yes, we find children love the sessions online. I've never had a child not be engaged. Our USP is that they are really interactive, they're really creative, and we have, out of the 120 kids that we're currently working with, we have got a whole breadth of children, believe me, and a high majority of children with ADHD, different SEND needs, autism. We are sort of experts at keeping them engaged and planning sessions to sort of be tailored to their interests as well. Again, I can't say for your child specifically. The only way you'll know is if you do the trial, and that's why we have it there as well, because actually we don't want to be taking on children that are not the right fit from our perspective as well as from your perspective, and you'll see that when you sign up to the trial and the assessment. Sorry, I'm just looking at some of the questions coming through. My daughter is 12 years. Is it too late? Again, I don't think it's ever too late, right? Even if an adult is struggling reading, you'd want to get them help. It's never too late to get help. But it's really hard for me to give you any specifics without actually one of us sitting down one-to-one and assessing your daughter and working out what the next steps are for them. I don't think it's ever too late. Do you try and find children to sit okay? Yes. Sorry if I've missed any. If you have dyslexia, shall we sign up to your program? No, so everything we do is completely built with dyslexic children in mind. If you've been into school and asked about dyslexia and your child with dyslexia, you might have got this answer, which is whatever helps a child with dyslexia helps a struggling reader, and whatever helps a struggling reader helps a child with dyslexia. I would say probably 75% of the children we work with are either diagnosed dyslexia or they are suspected to have dyslexia, and haven't got an official assessment yet. And there are lots of strategies, multisensory strategies, working memory strategies, all sorts of things that we use, and how our sessions are structured that support that need. How much of the lessons? Is there a minimum booking period? No. So the lessons are opt-in and out monthly. You pay on a monthly basis. It's the same price every month for the weekly group session. It's £105 a month. And that includes everything. You get 6 weekly reports. Can you also share the pricing for one-to-one? Pricing for one-to-one is really hard to share because it will completely depend on what you sign up for. Like our core offer is not just one session. It is multiple sessions throughout the week. We don't really have children that sign up for one-off one-to-one. But one one-to-one session costs on average about £39. Well, it costs £39. But if you come on to the one-to-one core program, it tends to be more than that because they have more than one session a week. Will you work with home educated kids? Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. We work with home educated children. We work with children all over the world. So our tutors work at all different times. So we have children booked in from 9 a.m. in the morning till 7 o'clock at night. How long are the sessions? The group sessions I've been speaking to you about this evening are mainly 30 minutes. The reason I say mainly, the booking form is for a 30-minute one-to-one and a 30-minute trial. We do have some children that as they move up and they progress, we put them into 45-minute groups where they sort of become fluency and comprehension groups combined. But I would say that wouldn't happen straight away unless your child was making like really great progress with the groups. So for example, the little boy we heard read tonight who read the Owl, I can't remember what the book's called, The Owl's Afraid of the Dark. He is now doing a 45-minute group. He's just moved into it after 3 months because his reading fluency's come on so much. Sessions are 30 minutes. Are there activities to do with the weekly session? So yes, we send activities at the end of the sessions, or we will say, this is the text we've been reading, this is what you can do at home, but we make it optional. It's not compulsory because we're completely aware that A, families are juggling everything, right? And B, the reason that a lot of families are getting our help in the first place is because they want to get rid of that battle and that fight and that tension in the house at home. So we say it's up to you. Obviously, you're going to see more results the more you do. But if you don't want to, the next lesson does not hinge on it. How do group sessions work? So they work in a whole, no, they don't tend to read all out together. Sometimes they might do that for like a snippet, but there are lots of different activities that they do. So the sessions are structured. So we might start by looking at a particular tricky word focus, applying that tricky word. Then we'd look at focus sounds, applying the focus sounds, different games. The children will take it in turns, and we all use different sort of fluency methods. So the reason that you saw that little boy there in the group, there's 3 of them in that group, reading for that sort of short snippet, that was his turn to read, and the children have a different task where they were sort of doing something in the chat whilst he was reading, and then they swap. So you could see, I think that second clip was like 30 seconds and then it swapped over. Thank you, Carol. I think I've answered everyone's questions. Is there anyone whose question I haven't answered? Please say. Brilliant. Okay, well, I really hope that this session has been useful. This is the first sort of massive group workshop that I've done. So I'm really hoping there's been some benefit for you, and I would love any sort of feedback. When you say Welsh medium provision, is that for children who learn Welsh before they start English? If that is the case, then yes, we do that, and we do it for girls' schools for children in Ireland as well. Thanks, guys. And we actually have a lot of children. I have a lot of parents in my DMs coming in asking me that. Sorry if I've rambled at you for too long, and thank you for giving me up an hour and 7 minutes of your Tuesday evening. I massively appreciate it. It's really nice. I can see as people are logging off and saying thank you, I can see lots of our parents in the chat as well. So that's really nice to see some of you here. Thanks, everyone. We found my daughter has regressed in resource class. Have you seen this before? Yeah, completely. It will just completely depend on your daughter and where she's at the moment and what support's being put into place for her. Yes, I think there's never a have you seen this before? No. But it will be really specific for your daughter. So if you book onto the trial and she has the assessment, I'm going to be able to give you much more information there. Oh, great. Thanks, Jen. Thank you. Look forward to booking. I look forward to you booking in. Okay, I'm going to stop the call there. I think there's quite a few people with cameras off. Thank you. Is there anyone left in here who wants to ask me a question? I can see some people are hanging on.